everybody. Welcome to Justice Served Daily. Happy Thanksgiving Eve to everyone out there. I am stopping my own preparation so that I can do this show here. So I know there's a lot of people getting ready for the holiday. If you're catching this live, thanks for taking a break before that. Maybe you're going to catch it during the weekend here, but I appreciate you being here. So let me get this up, and I'm going to do this where I'm going to show my whole screen, which isn't ideal, but I'm doing it just because when I show some of these clips, it's easier for me to move over to them, and that way I don't lose sound. So let me make sure that I share the sound with us there too. You guys can let me know if for some reason it won't show up properly. And I can go back over here and bring up the presentation and information for you guys. So, which also when I do this, it doesn't allow me easy access to see the chat, but I'm going to pull this over to the side so that I can. And that way I can share the information on this case, which is something I have been wanting to do for a while. And the Delphi goes on and on. So, hello, Cryptex. How are you? I did see your message and I saw it later. Sorry about that. But I know Cryptex and I are going to try to do a show together. Do I still have an echo? That's odd. CJK, hello. Do you guys still hear an echo with me doing this? Because I don't have anything else open. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and try to keep talking. Let me know if it gets really bad. Here, let me double check something really quick before. Let's see. Nope. Both of those. Sorry, just double checking. Nope. Doesn't seem to. If it gets really bad, if everybody hears an echo, let me know. Cryptex says he does. CJK says she does not. So if you also hear an echo out there, please let me know. So we're going to be talking about a unsolved, very sad true crime case here in Indiana of a 10-year-old Linda Weldy up in LaPorte. And the last time that she was seen was on her school bus. So I want to go through this case. I spoke to the detective today, and so we'll go through that, and then I'll give you the updates and stuff on this. But this case really needs attention here in Indiana. And what's sad about is this case happened in 1987. It was when she went missing. So to help anybody that's not from Indiana to kind of know where LaPorte is, you'll see the red dot up in the left-hand corner. So as you go farther over here to the farthest left, you can see where Lake County is here, where my mouse is pointing. When you go any farther out west, that direction, that is the Chicago area. So you're hitting the Illinois line right here. And then above us, you're hitting Michigan. So you've got LaPorte right there. And for those who watch because of Delphi, Carroll County is right down here. So you can see that. There's about a population about 21,000 usually in LaPorte County. Back in the time frame of when this happened, there is not a good census count to use for that. Also in Kingsbury, which is where we're going to talk about as well, is approximately 259 people, which will make sense here in a moment. So Linda Lynn Weldy, she was born August 13th of 1976. She was 10 years old, fourth grader at Critchfield Elementary School. And she lived, and she was born actually too in LaPorte, Indiana. At the same time she disappeared, she lived at 181 McClung Road, it should be McClung, LaPorte, Indiana, with her mother, Karen L. Lewis, her brother, 13-year-old William R. Lewis, and her mother's boyfriend, Robert E. Golf. So this is her elementary school that she went to. And there's usually approximately about 400 students at the full elementary school level. Most elementary schools back in the 80s went to up to 4th and 5th grade. So I marked and went on, you know how I love my Google Maps, to now, not that I'm the expert Google Maps by any means, nor would I claim to be, but I just do it to kind of give you a visual of location. And if you see in the left-hand side, the red balloon is where Critchfield Elementary School is located. And then if you see the yellow star, that is where Linda's home is located. So riding home on the bus was not a long venture for her, because you're talking about a mile from there. And if you guys are having trouble hearing me at all or hear echo, please let me know. I know Cryptex said he was having trouble, so just let me know if for some reason I'm still echoing. So this is a little bit closer up to Linda's home. Hello, Miss Jinx. Happy pre-Thanksgiving to anybody just joining here. Thank you for taking a break of defrosting your bird, stuffing your bird, or getting ready to go to somebody's house who's doing that for you. So So her house is about 200 yards just north of McClung Road. McClung Road right here that curves, as you can see, is where the bus drops off Linda. And so back here, there is no other houses and stuff going farther back of here. As you can tell, it goes back. It's got like a drive here. And I'm going to show you a picture of it even closer up. But this is basically where there's a bus stop here. Kids can get off and, walk to these other houses and stuff. But this is where Linda would drop off. Now, her house was farther back. And right now, her house no longer shows up on the Google Maps because now there is a VFW back there. The home itself was torn down. But it is next to, as you can see, Fish Trap Lake, which is right there, which she used to play in and stuff as well. And this area was searched a lot when she went missing, obviously. And I also just want to bring up that this lake itself was iced over, but it was not super thick, but it was iced over at the time. So police did not go and try to start, going through the lake itself looking for her. So I went in a little bit closer for you to see. So as you look at McClung Road at this drive where the bus stop is stopping here, there's a business that was across the street. And Linda would walk this distance to her house. And then you'd have to turn, you kind of turns here. This used to all be gravel, total gravel before. And she would turn in here, and it still kind of had a curve, and it's all grassed over, treed, pretty thick and stuff right there. So you can't see directly to the house. So I went in and bit closer to this, and I have articles and the information as I normally do, just to source and tell you guys where I got everything from. So this fourth grader was last seen when she got off the bus on Tuesday, February 24th at 3:30 p.m. So this is basically the last time that she's seen. And again, you see where she'd be dropped off here. She'd walk along. She would take this continue walking. This is still her drive, all gravel stuff here. And then it's treed. All these trees and stuff are here when she gets farther back. Now, Linda was only 4 feet 10 inches tall. She only weighed 80 pounds. She had light brown to blonde hair, blue eyes. And she was last seen wearing a long brown coat, yellow slacks, and pink tennis shoes. So this is from the ground, showing where she would walk. Her stop was 200 yards from her house. And then she walked along this curved slide. You can see where the trees are here. That's where it starts curving back. And then she would walk the rest of the way along this gravel road to her home. Now, witnesses who last saw Linda alive. There was the school bus driver. Now, the school bus driver didn't know Linda, but and it's a female bus driver, and she said that she did remember seeing in her rearview mirror as she drove away Linda walking. It was just kind of a thing the bus driver did. She happened to look back and she saw her walking that way. She didn't see her go any other direction or anything like that at all. Now, the police also interviewed some other students on the bus who saw Linda walking to the mailbox. And the mailbox itself is farther out. So the mail didn't go way back where her house was. It went back on that 200 yards they talked about. She would grab the mail before she'd walk in the house. Now, there was workers across MCCLUNG Road who also said that they saw her walking that day, that she was dropped off and walking. Now, Robert Egolf, who is her mother's boyfriend, who is Linda's mother's boyfriend, and her brother, William Lewis, were outside their home. But they told investigators they neither saw her nor heard anything suspicious at that time. So Linda's mom, who is Karen Lewis, was at work at a new job in Walkerton, Indiana. She was working nights. She's a second shift worker. She was not immediately aware that Linda was missing. So Robert Egolf told Karen that Linda was missing just before 12 a.m. before it turned February 25th. When Karen called on a CB radio, okay, they didn't have a telephone. So basically, Karen is getting off work basically around 11 o'clock. She calls in the CB radio from her car, calls into the house just to say to her boyfriend and that, does he need anything? About 11:30-ish, before midnight. And then that's when she finds out that she's missing. So let me show you this quickly and let you hear in her own words.
Job in Walkerton, and it was a second shift job. And at that time, we did not have a telephone. We had a CB radio.
And it was hours before Linda was even reported missing.
I clocked out of work at 11 o'clock at night, and I was on my way home, and I got on the CB radio because we also had a base unit. And I called up my husband, and I said, I'm on my way home. Would you like me to pick up anything? And he says to me, did by chance you said it was okay for Linda to spend the night anywhere? And I told him, I said, no, why do you ask? And he said she didn't come home. It's like, oh, there's got to be some misunderstanding. For a job in Walkerton.
So that's how she learns that her daughter is missing. So this is the distance. I just thought I would show you this on the map. The top left arrow is pointing at the first star. That is where their home is. This second arrow is pointing over here. It's just above another star, which is at a wildlife preserve and hunting area. And then it's basically, though, pointing right above that, which is on 500, which we're going to look at because that's where her body's going to be found. And the bottom arrow itself, pointing to the last star area, is where the mother is at work. So the neighbors. So Linda's friend, who is a 10-year-old Anna McCoy, said, I play with her a lot. I didn't see her yesterday after school. She is my best friend. Now, Anna's mother, Darlene McCoy, stated that she goes, I'm really worried. I'll pick up my daughter from the bus every day from now on. McCoy said she had telephone threats concerning her daughter for several days, but added, I never thought it would lead to this. I don't think the calls have anything to do with this. McCoy said the calls to her home involve a former relative, and she said she had not told the police about it because she didn't consider it serious. Now, I looked into Darlene McCoy and Anna McCoy, both, who were neighbors at the time. Darlene McCoy is now deceased. She actually passed away in 2021. And Anna McCoy, who was Linda's best friend, another 10-year-old at the time, no longer actually lives in the state of Indiana whatsoever. So Anna McCoy, the 10-year-old girl neighbor and friends of Linda, said that she usually saw her every day within minutes when she got off the school bus. Anna McCoy rode a different school bus that day, though. But she got off at about the same time at the same place. But she said that day, Linda Weldy was reported missing, that she didn't see her at all. So normally this girl would get off the bus and play with her and see her, and she didn't at all. So they are continuing to look for her, and they were searching by helicopter. And in this particular article, I just wanted to point out in a bunch of articles that they did, one of them, Robert Egolf, who is the boyfriend of Karen Lewis, makes a statement basically saying that the searches didn't amount to much, and that he said that there's no evidence of foul play. Now, this is just what is commenting back in this paper, local paper there. So the search keeps continuing for Linda Weldy. And again, Robert Egolf makes a comment to the papers. It is not like her to not come straight home. A few times, she had gone to her friends for a while after school, but she has always let us know. Egolf said he doesn't believe this is a child custody case. I don't think she left with her father. He hasn't seen her in a long time. He probably doesn't even know what she looks like. So again, these are just comments that he's making to the local newspaper. So again, the search keeps continuing, and you can see how much it is a focus in the area and being posted in Indiana papers trying to look for this 10-year-old. So 3 weeks later, they end up finding Linda's body. And it was found on Tuesday, March 17th. And we'll have the mother's comment here. Let's see.
What happened? She was just a little kid living her life. She didn't deserve this. No child deserves this.
Karen Egolf has been asking these questions for 32 years. Who killed her little girl? Her emotions up and down as she remembers the agony of losing a child and the immense joy of having her daughter for 10 years.
She liked to go fishing and play outside, and she liked cats and dogs and other kids, and she's just fun. She had a good sense of humor. She was a hoot.
Linda Weldy was 10 years old in 5th grade and was, by all accounts, just a fun kid.
This is dress up Linda for picture, but this is everyday Linda.
So that's mom's reaction. And by the way, I know the reporter said 5th grade, but in all her information, it says that she is a 4th grader. So here's where her body was found. I have the 2 possible routes that can come down from where she lived at her house down just outside of Kingsbury, just before Kingsbury. So you can take this state road, and then it goes across here to where her body's found just before Kingsbury. And it's not very far out. Now, I did this route here for 500 for you to see. Across here are former railroad tracks. And this was the Wabash train line. Used to be the Wabash train line. And it goes all the way across. And it ends up going into another route that travels north and south, another train route that goes north and south. So the area, though, that she was found in is remote. And it was also about 50 yards back so that she wasn't visible. But they said in the information and articles from her, she was not covered up or anything. Nobody tried to cover up where her body was or where she was at all. So she was basically 50 yards off that along the old railroad, on top of old railroad ties and stuff from that, just outside of Kingsbury. So in the description, it'll talk about, so you can see the Highway 35 on the far left-hand side. It's coming down. You can take that Highway 35 down. And the road I have going here, I show you this Kingsbury Fish and Wildlife that's over to the right. Well, they stated that it was only a mile from Kingsbury Fish and Wildlife. And then this non-marked area is where that railroad goes all the way across. And that was dug, completely dug out and stuff from where it was before. But it meets up with another train line in the area that still functions, but the 500 Wabash one is no longer there. So it was in a brush. A farmer was the one who found her body. It basically kind of was in a ditched in area. Again, she wasn't covered up at all. About 6 miles from LaPorte. So early in the investigation, and it kind of reminds me early on when you hear a bunch of stuff and then all of a sudden the evidence goes a totally different direction. But early in the investigation, when Linda's body was found, authorities were stating that she was strangled by hand, that they had no suspects at the time. And one of the officers that was talking said that they were speculating that she was chosen randomly by the abductor. This is by the sheriff, Kenneth Layton, then. And it doesn't appear she was the target per se. Now, this is what was stated here. And they talk about that there was no special attempt to conceal her body. She was fully dressed. She was not found nude or anything. And this is after she was found, the obituary that was placed in there. I also just point this out because, again, in the obituary, it even shows here too, she was a 4th grader. I'll tell you one thing different in newspapers. In newspapers, when the reporters put in there, you can find misinformation in one certain article versus another. And then you have to find for yourself certain things and facts about everything. But this is placed by the family. So then we get into, in the investigation, in March, after they find her, that they now believe that Linda knew who her killer was. So Linda was killed in a field just south of LaPorte County Road on the 500 South. Linda's body was found face down and fully dressed. They found her clutching handful of grass, and they said it appeared that she was trying to run from her killer. Law enforcement believed Linda knew her killer and that the killer knew the area where her body was found. They said the remote area has been known by county residents as a former lover's lane for many years. It is also a popular area for deer hunters. But there was still more evidence that they found that they eventually revealed to us. Now, I wanted to point this out to you because you will see that the information now will have Karen Egolf, and that is because Robert Egolf, the boyfriend of Karen, Linda's mother, marries Karen Lewis the next year, and he marries her on the day of Linda's birthday. So Linda was born August 13th, and here is a copy showing the marriage date. I was just curious and interested in that. So the police have reinvestigated and investigated this several times. And I'm going to show you 2 theories that Karen Egolf, who was Karen Lewis, brings up at the time. Now, they reinvestigated, started looking at this case again back in 98, and then started looking at it again around 2014. So let me show you, though, what Karen, and even the next will be what her now husband says that they believe are their theories of who did this.
Karen Egolf's list. Linda's mother is a suspected serial killer named Larry Hall.
He was into the Civil War reenactments, and he was in the area at that time. That's the only reason why I haven't dropped him off the list completely, is because over at the museum here in LaPorte, they do Civil War reenactments.
Hall was convicted on federal kidnapping charges from 1993. He was sentenced to life in prison. And while he's admitted to and been suspected of the abductions and murders of young girls, he has never been convicted of murder.
We pretty much put Larry Hall to rest that he did not commit this crime.
That's Al Williamson with the Indiana State Police. He has worked on the Weldy case for nearly 20 years. What do you think about the Larry Hall linkage?
We've pretty much vetted out Larry Hall. Larry Hall professed to take credit for a lot of crimes that he did not do, this being one of them.
Karen Egolf's list. Linda's.
So the Indiana State Police basically state that, and where'd that go? Oh, misline. That she believes it is Larry Hall, a known serial killer taken from Indiana. And he's from Wabash, Indiana, which is ironic. Technically, that's where Richard Allen's dad was from, his bio dad, and where he lived. His mother and him lived for a little bit. So as you could tell, he was charged, though, with kidnapping, not with murder. They have 2 cases that they have confirmed from him, and they confirm he's in there. Now, him and his brother always would go and travel to these Civil War reenactments. And they started to try to start looking into where he would travel for these, only because 2 of the victims that he had kidnapped and sexually assaulted were while he was traveling from that, and that's what connected that. So they started looking more into it. But just like the Indiana State Police just stated, they also found that he's trying to get more attention, and so he's confessing to murders and stuff like that, and he hasn't been convicted of murder. Now, he is serving life imprisonment without parole. So, in the amount suspected of crimes that he has, they're sitting here, and I know there's a different number to the right, but they believe that, so he's confessed to 35 murders. However, authorities believe he could be responsible for the deaths and disappearance of between 40 and 50 young women, and which would make him a big-time serial killer, right? Well, but nothing else has been confirmed from these other 2, while him and his, brother were traveling around. But he was going around, sitting here, definitely kidnapping and sexually assaulting young girl. The first one he got arrested for was 15 years old. Then the other was young women. So that's when they were looking at, okay, these child murders could be part of it as well. And if you look at the states they have listed where they looked for him to have been traveling a lot with his brother to these Civil War sites, we've got Indiana, Illinois, Wyoming, Michigan, Missouri, Kansas, Georgia, Ohio, Alabama, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Virginia, Tennessee, and Kentucky. And what do they say his weapons are? A knife, a rope, and his hands. So when you do go look up his info, you'll see that they have Linda Weldy listed as somebody that he confessed to. But as you see, the Indiana State Police, and this is during the updated time when they were taking forensics, said that he backed out of saying he did it, and now they don't believe that it's him. I think I mixed those up, but that's okay. Now, this is Robert Egolf's, Karen's husband's, theory of who he believes murdered Linda.
Gang, perhaps.
One of the suspicions is this guy called Eskimo, and he was a member of the Sinners motorcycle gang.
Karen's boyfriend at the time, now her husband, Robert Egolf, was in the process of joining the Sinners in the mid-1980s.
They had asked Robert to join the motorcycle gang, and after being in probation for a while, he decided that this is not the path he wanted to take, and he turned his vest in.
Karen and Robert say a member called Eskimo was not happy about that.
It's a very good possibility that she had been taken and murdered to get back at Robert for not joining.
Robert would not talk on camera, but told me his theory, saying gang, perhaps.
So let me tell you what his theory was. Sorry. So Robert Egolf claimed that this guy, Eskimo, aka Oliver Peak, Eskimo was pissed that Robert Egolf didn't join the gang of Sinners. This is not, Sinners Motorcycle Club is not the same thing as Sin City Motorcycles Club. But Sinners Motorcycle Club was originated in Gary, Indiana, way back in the 60s. And then it grew. It was basically started out of Northwest Indiana. It grew larger and larger from that. And now it's even in different countries and stuff. So Egolf claims he's going to join this gang. As his now wife says, well, they were mad that he wasn't going to sign up, especially this guy, Eskimo, whose real name was Oliver Peak, and that Oliver Peak got mad and he probably kidnapped Linda as revenge against Robert Egolf for not joining the gang, and that he took her and murdered her, and that a few years later, Eskimo, aka Oliver Peak, then what he says that a few years later he was murdered, and that he tells the newspaper, although he won't go on camera, he tells the newspaper that Peak was killed by other motorcycle gang people because he shouldn't have killed a child. So, well, it's not true, because Oliver Peak, in his obituary, which he did not die until 95, so he didn't die just a couple of years after Linda was missing, died in his home of, it says natural causes in here. His family said it was a heart attack. And so saying that this guy did it after he's already dead, and then trying to say that then the motorcycle gang went and got him, whatever. This guy was also a Navy veteran. Is there Sinners motorcycle gang still in Indiana? Yes. I found posts about the Sinners Motorcycle Club way back in the 80s, which had some stuff listed as some things going on, a club head member who was murdered and two other ladies and stuff. But I also found more recently Sinners Club, who are veterans who are raising money and giving money to groups. So, to throw this out there that this is his idea of who did it, give me a break. You know what I mean? So, so this is the updated in 1998, where in the paper they talk about advances for the 11-year-old murder. And this, they talk about additional evidence that they want to get searched. So they ask the FBI to consider reanalyzing physical evidence that was on the scene. And in this, it ends up finding out what it is. So they talk about there was a significant amount of evidence that was collected at the crime scene. Off of her body. So there was stuff at the crime scene itself, off of her body. And they revealed that there was at least one vehicle that was searched. And that in there, they had hair, fibers, and more. We see that they talk about a suspect that surfaced in Linda's case. And during that, the officer at the time declined to identify who the prime suspect was, other than to say it was a male. He added, and this is his statement, there was a mode of thought. More than one person was involved in the deal. Now, that's how he worded it. He also talks about that there was a significant amount of physical evidence collected at the crime scene off of her body. And at least this is where it reveals that one vehicle that was searched. And the reason they were asking the FBI is because they were thinking maybe there was stuff capable of analyzing this hair, the fibers, and other evidence more effectively than what they had back in the 80s. So why did Robert Egolf and her brother not see her when she got off the bus? Right? We did have other people who saw her getting off the bus. We see the bus driver, other students, people who, worked across MCCLUNG Street. So this is the piece I want to show you from this. I will have the group that the place that I got the snippets from for you to be able to go look and see full videos if you'd like.
Let off the bus and after attending school, and that was the last time she was seen by the bus driver.
Linda went to the mailbox like she usually does, and then the bus driver took off, and that was the last time anybody had seen her.
That was around 3 p.m. at 181 West MCCLUNG Road. The mailbox is several hundred feet from her house on the shore of Fish Trap Lake. It has since been torn down. A VFW now sits in its place. However, aside from being paved, the driveway and terrain is virtually the same. And while Linda's big brother William and Karen's boyfriend Robert were home at the time, they did not see Linda.
Let off the bus and
So that is Pat Cicero. And he was a detective with LaPorte Sheriff's Office. He is now a major with them, which I spoke to him. We'll get into that just a second. Other evidence found revealed. So again, going through all the newspaper.com, I love having newspaper.com for the older cases. You know, I don't know how it's going to work for the newer cases, to be honest with you. In the older cases, you can go back to different newspapers, do a search from it, try to find information, and then read every different newspaper and who they talked to and where they got stuff from. You know, nowadays we get it electronically, and it doesn't stay the original information, because if a news agency goes and updates that information, you'll see it when you go, if you've ever pulled up an article and you'll see that it says updated on blah, blah, blah date. So, you know, with a newspaper, that doesn't happen. You have the print of what was being told one place, and then you get print what's being told someplace else. And now, because everything is digital or on news clips on YouTube or whatever, information gets all completely updated. And, you know, who knows how long YouTube interview videos will last with news that you can find anymore. You know, eventually when cases become cold, how will you find all that information that we once been able to do with the newspapers? I just think it's difficult. But so here's the other evidence that was found and revealed. There were pieces of copper speaker wire found on both Linda's clothing and in the trunk of a car he suspects was used to transport Linda's body. So again, this comes from the newspaper article revealing this, and this is after they went back and they were trying to search scientifically with some of the testing. Now, there was also a footprint on Linda's coat, and they want to see if there's a match with the soil collected from the belongings of the suspect. So to me, it's saying there's some type of dirt or something from the footprint that he put his foot on her back and left it there, right? Now, I wanted to go to this article here that lends me to believe who they think is the suspect. And you tell me what you think. So first, Crane declined to identify that crime suspect, other than to say he was a male, right? He added there was a mode of thought more than one person was involved in the deal. So let's go over here. What did Robert Egolf say that him and Linda's brother, who's only 13 years old at the time, were doing when Linda was coming home from school? Because remember, they said they were outside. Here's the article. The live-in boyfriend of Weldy's mother and the victim's older brother told police they were in the yard putting up a Citizens Band radio antenna at the time the girl was supposed to have stepped off the bus. They told police she didn't make it home. The day after the disappearance, police stopped vehicles on MCCLUNG Road to ask if anyone saw anything out of the ordinary. Some people said they saw her start down the driveway to the house, but nothing suspicious was seen by anybody. So here again, the newest newspapers that started out, which was later on in 2000, they reveal that she was actually sexually molested and she was strangled. Her cause of death was strangulation. So they say that she was beaten. She was trying to run from her person who had grass in her hand, grass clutched in her hands. She was molested. And she was strangled by hand. Now, the authorities had said that they didn't understand why her body was covered in these wires, had wires on her and her jacket when she was strangled by hand. It wasn't like these wires were used. So then you've got, wait a minute, the boyfriend at the time was changing antenna wires. And they say that in the car that she would have been transported in the car and then dumped at these railroad tracks near a camping area. So we go into the Northwest Indiana Times. This is the updated info, the latest updated as far as the case was concerned when they were working to try to get the FBI in there. So they did say it wasn't a fresh scene when they found it because she was there for 3 weeks. But they talk about that the evidence is still in good tact. This has Pat Cicero in here. So in 2014, evidence previously tested along with new evidence was turned over to the Indiana State Police for a laboratory analysis, hoping that DNA would lead police to Linda's killer. And now they're talking of stuff back then and about the case, everything like that. And again, they say that they believe that Linda knew or recognized her killer. It was the statement. And it says the statistics would show that many homicide investigations, he said, sometimes that someone who is close to you. Now, this was a statement at the time from the Indiana State Police officer in 2014 who was talking about DNA.
I have my good days and I have my bad days, especially around the anniversary of her death. Those are my bad days.
32 years, and this mother still grieves, holding on to pictures, letters, newspaper articles, and her daughter's jewelry.
I wear her necklace, and I feel a little closer to her when I wear her jewelry.
But with every passing day, Karen Egolf says hope of her daughter's murder ever being solved fades further away, even with investigators digging back through old evidence with new technology. Karen says she's skeptical.
They have said to me too many times, we're on the verge. We're on the verge. Somebody's going to be arrested tonight. Somebody's going to be arrested tomorrow. We have what we need, and it never happens.
We're looking at evidence that maybe wasn't submitted before that we did not realize we had. You have to understand in cases like this, any little piece of evidence was collected. And maybe it was sitting in storage and before, and it was never tested because the technology wasn't there, or the technology is better today that we can test it, where before there was not enough sample to test.
Al Williamson with the Indiana State Police. What are you looking for?
Anything that would lead us to a suspect. Through the genealogy now, you can go through genealogy with the 23andMe's, your Ancestry.com. You can look at that. If we have any DNA that we can extract, maybe we can look through them to say whose DNA is this, or what relative of this can we now look into that wasn't there before.
But the new technology isn't all related to DNA. Other pieces of evidence that weren't as reliable in the past could be re-examined.
There's some advancements that I'm aware of that we're exploring with some of the trace evidence.
What's trace evidence?
Well, trace evidence is anything that's considered a very small hairs, fibers, you name it. It's something that's extremely small, but it still applies to the linkage theory of, how are we linking this crime or person's location to the event itself.
It's all evidence that could point back to potential suspects who've already been interviewed. Karen Egolf says since the very beginning.
I feel like they have tunnel vision. All their thoughts are focused on two people, and they're not willing to look in any other directions.
Do you know who those two people are?
Yes.
So we can assume that one of those two people that she may thinking they're focusing on could be her boyfriend, right? Because of what's going on. But so Linda Waldy's case shows up on the Indiana State Police post. There's not much information and stuff from that whatsoever. Very little, with the date, with stuff, with talking about district commander that you can contact from that. But the major with Pat Cicero, who you saw in these videos, who's with the LaPorte County Sheriff's Office, I did speak to. There is, and so I'm trying to share what info I can share that was shared on the record. And so there's no resolution at this time, no DNA being tested, genealogy at this time. They're waiting for testing to catch up to what evidence they do have. They have and are using Indiana State Police, a separate lab, and FBI. There is no issue of contamination of the evidence that they have. There isn't any issue with the amount that they have, and any concerns with that he shared at all. Cicero shared that we talked about potential suspects. We talked about the thought process that Linda's mom, thinks it's Hall, the serial killer who could be in there, about Robert Egolf saying that he thought it was, the biker gang, specifically Eskimo, who did this. He shared that he believes that the person is close. It's a known person who is close. And I asked, had anybody been eliminated from people who've been listed there? And he did say and share with me that there have been suspects that have been eliminated, but he's not able to reveal who at this time. And that he still believes that Linda knew her killers. I also kept in there, just because that's kind of the term that was used when we were talking. I did ask him also about, there is another little girl who was murdered not too far from LaPorte, who was 11 years old. She was sexually assaulted. She was strangled. And I know that they had talked before about, are these cases connected? And she lived in Argos, Indiana. I specifically asked him about that as I'm doing work and looking into about the Argos case as well. And Major Cicero told me they do not believe that there is a connection at all between Linda's murder and the other case, which I will be bringing to you very soon here. So right now, this case is hoping that some technology will catch up to some scene evidence that they have. And definitely, if there is anybody at all who has any information whatsoever, whether you think it's too small or not pertinent or anything about this case, that information is encouraged to be shared by contacting Major Pat Cicero at the LaPorte County Sheriff's Office. And his line is 219-326-7700, and he's extension 2404. So it's really sad because we have a lot of cases in Indiana of children and young women who have been murdered, many of them who have also been sexually assaulted, and they're unsolved. And we really need to try to help these cases and stuff out to find out information from them, and also to try to figure out if there is a connection between any of them. I also think that we need to worry about trying to find out this serial killer who also lived in Indiana, who will also be covering too. Okay, we realize he is bullshit confessing to some cases that he did, but we know that he did too. We know that he traveled around, and to say, well, he could have done 35 to 50 more isn't good enough. If he possibly was the one who committed these crimes, we need to find out what those are and get the answers for those families about what happened. I am very surprised to see that there are some cases that we know about that aren't even listed in Indiana State Police Cold Cases Unit. And one of those examples I'll give you is Deborah Fulton's case, the one that I've covered, that she was murdered on Halloween, a 16-year-old murder on Halloween. She's not even listed in a still needs to be solved case for the state police. Why would she not be listed for that? That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So when we don't solve cases of somebody sexually assaulting, murdering little girls, young women, little boys, whomever, it continues that this person can continue to do so. So when we have this serial killer who it can say, oh yeah, well, he wasn't really convicted of murdering anybody, but he definitely kidnapped and sexually assaulted somebody. And he could have done up to 35 or whatever. Then we need to figure out what those are. We need to test whatever it is to test to get justice for those who are going through this. It's not acceptable to sit here and not get the answers for people, because everybody else living around these people who committed these murders are at risk. You know, your kids, your sisters, your mothers, your aunts, whomever, they're all at risk when we don't solve these cases. And nobody wants to pay attention to these cases. And I mean, I've got another murder that I'm going to share with you soon that's only 11 miles away from her, of another little girl who was 11, who was also sexually assaulted and raped and molested and murdered. She was also strangled. So, that's the other reason I asked Major Cicero, can you tell me for certain, do you believe these two cases are connected? He said no. He does not believe these two cases are connected. I really believe they seem to know who the suspect is in Linda Weldy's case, but they don't have the evidence to take it to trial. The only way that we reveal this stuff is by spreading the word and other people hearing about the cases. So that maybe now, it's 2024, we're almost 2025. This little girl was murdered in 1987. Doesn't Linda Weldy deserve justice? I mean, the good news is there's a lot of stuff with NamUs and other things like that are coming out, that they are identifying DNA of the unidentified. And, it's coming forward to at least know and help us identify who these poor victims are that haven't even been identified. But then we have kids that we know who they are, and then they go 30, 40 years without anybody knowing. These victims deserve better than that. Could you imagine if you were the parent waiting to find out who did this? And they think it could be somebody close by. That family could still be sitting here near that person. Other people are sitting there near that person. And if we have this serial killer that's from Wabash, Indiana, who traveled around, and you can put down that he potentially may have killed and abducted and raped, maybe 35 to 40. It's kind of, maybe 35 to 40. Those are goddamn people. Those are 35 to 40 women and children. They deserve better than that. And even if your own selfish reasons, for God's sakes, if that person is still walking around, then you have your own children and relatives who are at risk for it if we don't find out. And if it's the serial killer who's already in jail, that doesn't mean shit to somebody not knowing that he did or did not kill somebody in their family. So I'm going to be doing the next little girl in Argos, Indiana, to tell you about her unsolved case. I will be go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and try to do something on Hall, just to point out his bullshit. And for those who don't know about him, the serial killer here from Indiana, who they suspect did all these murders, and he just wants to confess like nothing. But in the Delphi related area, that will be coming up as quick as the Argos, Indiana girl. I'm going through doing a show on called Who Wrote Clear on Richard Allen's form that Kathy Shank found and that Dan Dolan wrote on. And I'm going to go through all of that. So I do also, oh, that reminds me before I forget. I will say Jinx is sitting here in the chat. I think Coach Kev just recently did an updated show. I have done posts and stuff in my community post, but we still have the case of the Flora 4 girls from Flora, Indiana, who are murdered because of arson and still has not been solved. There is a walk coming up soon for the Flora 4. And I posted some information and stuff about that. I will keep posting information and stuff for that. I know also there is going to be a final walk also for the Delphi girls that's going to happen in 2025. So, you know, the only way we can help and make a difference is to try to spread the word about this. And unfortunately, a lot of channels get exposure because they want to cause drama, or they want you to believe lies and shit that they'll bring up to make shows more interesting. I don't know what their point is. I really don't know what their point is, because they hurt other they hurt cases by not telling the truth. And oh, did I miss that? Okay, I thought there was another one coming up. The memorial walk happened 10 days ago for Flora. And but we do know that somebody knows something with the Flora case, and that, you know, it's an arson to do that. And it's like, okay, Delphi has had a lot of things. Now this is a major unsolved case, you know, in Carroll County that we need to make sure also gets attention. But my goal is to try to bring up a lot of these cold cases that need attention, and not just to tell you the story of it. You know, that's like I was, trying to find the neighbor, found out the neighbor of Linda was already passed on, trying to find the little girl who is friends with Linda, Anna. She's out of state. She's had a lot of difficulties with her life and stuff like that. And then, you know, I was looking at, okay, do I contact the, mom directly? She's done a lot of talking. I know she's so frustrated with trying to get the answers and stuff for that. And then when you start reading further about evidence they kept releasing and then details they keep releasing, I would think, I mean, I don't know about you guys listening to all that, but I would think that they are having the stepfather as a potential suspect. So, you know, we've got to get the answers for these cases, because that also means we've got people walking around who have murdered and sexually assaulted children. And as I've told you before, the piece of all of Delphi, even though the murder part here is done with Richard Allen, is not done. because the story of these people's CSAM connecting to other people's CSAM in Dropboxes, in peer-to-peer websites, police officers, teachers, resource officers at schools. You see me dropping those at the community posts. And if you haven't, you need to keep an eye over there, because I have a hard time keeping up with how many are being busted. And then I'm trying to read their court papers to see, okay, how did they find this? Because a lot of times in the news, you guys get very generic info of just like, oh, well, they started an investigation because of this NECMEC tip, or this Indiana State Police were doing this for this. And then the bigger difference is, oh, this person is charged federally. They're not charged locally. Well, why were they charged federally? So there's a lot of people still busted. This group is not done of who they're busting here in Indiana at all, by any means. But I want to try to help bring justice to these cases that have been sitting here for such a long time, and do what we can do. And just like me reaching out to Major Cicero, and I told him about us doing the show. And again, please give him a call at the numbers going at the bottom of the screen, and, call in your tips, whatever tips and whatever. If you know something and you even want to send an email about something that you know that would be forwarded to him for some reason, my email is justiceserveddaily@gmail.com. You can send an email in of any type of tip or information. If you have a case that is somebody still missing, of an unsolved case that you need help with, I get a lot of those. It takes me a while, and some that are really urgent, I stop on certain things for me to start going on there, and I try to help as much I can. Again, I want to say happy pre-Thanksgiving to all of you. May you all be blessed this Thanksgiving. Please know that I am thankful for all of you and everybody that I have met through YouTube, through true crime, through people who care about other people and want to do the right thing. Also know that I'm going to be having soon the murder sheet is going to be coming on the show, kind of talking about the aftermath of the Delphi and part of the, the Delphi case and stuff such as that. Yeah, so I'm always bad at this. Please make sure you do hit that like button. Please make sure you do hit that subscribe button. I am a non-monetized channel. I do this just to get the case information out. I'm going to try to start also creating short videos to help cold cases get streamed more in higher numbers by people to learn about those cases. And Jinx, I would like to also do that. I know we talked about a press release for me to help with that, but I also would like to try to do some short videos about Flora, to specifically get more and more people to know about that case as well. So again, justiceserveddaily@gmail.com. Hit the like button, hit the comments button. I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. I can't tell you how much I appreciate all of you. And being here and listening to these cases means so much. And, in trying to do what my life goal is here now, to make a difference and to try to find justice for all these girls. So, yeah. I appreciate you all. Thank you, Jinx. Thank you, CJK. Thank you, everybody, for being out there. And thank you for making sure justice is served daily. Take care, guys. Enjoy your turkey.